We have a story of a different type of artist, a dressmaker who is allegedly accused of scamming people out of $10,000. Let's delve into the situation of Designer Daddy. And again, please don't send hate to any parties involved. So, Designer Daddy is a dressmaker who focuses on making fantasy style dresses. The gowns look gorgeous in the photos. He has a massive clientele, tons of followers, and everything seems fine and dandy. Occasionally, here and there on the internet, there are a few complaints about him and the dresses. This is a complaint from a user called Skeleton Key Cosplay. We will revisit them later. But they talk about their complaints with the Designer Daddy selling courses and finished garments that don't seem to be up to par with what is being advertised. They talk about how somebody who had purchased the dress immediately had the dress fall apart, except it was very expensive. This was, in 2025, things kind of died down from there until another user made a post that kicked things off again. So a user called Squidney had posted to their page 4 days ago, posting a call out about Designer Daddy, aka Christian Neffy. He goes by Neffy, so that's what a lot of people call him. Squidney says, as some of you know, I've used Designer Daddy, aka Neffy, in the past for dresses. I even hired him way back to make me a wedding dress that cost $1,500. I paid half in the beginning, and since then, it's been a nightmare. I will produce a post with my experience, and to date, as of 4 days ago, he had not sent me a penny when he had the dresses returned for months. So the first post reads part 1. In 2024, I won a dress from Designer Daddy, aka Neffy, through one of his auctions. I genuinely loved that dress, and because of that positive experience, I trusted him to create my custom wedding dress. On June 13, 2024, I sent a $750 deposit for my wedding gown through PayPal to an account called Dust Makeup. At the time, I didn't question why payment wasn't going directly to him because I trusted his reputation. Although I paid my deposit, we didn't have our first design call until August 10th, 2024. And during that call, we discussed my vision for the dress as well as the possibility of traveling for an in-person fitting, which never happened. Communication quickly became inconsistent. There was often long stretches with no responses, and on October 7th, 2024, Neffy sent a mock-up of my wedding dress. I loved the design, especially the beading, and believed that was the dress I would eventually receive. And as months passed, I repeatedly asked for updates, which went unanswered or met with explanations that he was driving, putting his kids to bed, or otherwise unavailable. So by July 24, 2025, more than a year after paying my deposit, I asked how to clean the auction dress I previously purchased, and I wanted photos of my wedding dress. I was told not quite yet, putting it together. And despite delays, I remained optimistic. I even commissioned a second custom dress for the Celestial Summit February 2026. So August 9, 2025, Neffy finally responded, asking when my wedding was. He also said he planned to have my Celestial Summit dress completed before fall 2025. After I reached out again, I was told that some of the beading had fallen off my wedding dress and he was traveling to Asia to settle his family before returning. So here we can see the DMs. These are the mock-up for the dress. Here you can see him posting about the dress, more posts. And November 12th, Squidney received the dress, saying, "Hi Neffy, the dress arrived, however I have concerns. One arm piece is torn and there is no bodysuit insert like how the black dress had. So I'm a bit frustrated. I have to figure out what I'm gonna do to not have my lower half showing, and the slit is so high, I'm not sure what I can wear." And so Neffy apologizes about the hole, saying he'll send a brand new dress and that they can keep the dress for photo shoots or distress type of cosplay. And so Squidney shows some frustration with the dress, how high the slit is, how the pearl work puffs out. So Neffy apologizes, highlighting they're on a flight to Asia and that, hey, I can send you a new dress. But Squidney isn't sure how it was going to arrive by the time they get to Japan. Yeah, here you can see there's a hole in the arm. But the slits are really high. Like the slits go up to the navel essentially. And yeah, it doesn't look like what was advertised. Because if you look at what was advertised here, right, the slit goes up to the hip. Like the high hip. Here, the slit is literally up to like the belly button, the waist. It's literally not in the same location. And it's apparently also not centered. And the back doesn't close. So Neffy is giving suggestions on how to wear it to make it fit better, but Squidney's like, dude, it's not fitting. And so the fiance steps in basically being like, hey, I want to move forward with returning the dress. And Neffy is like, yep, if you want to ship both gowns back to the Philippines, I'll be happy to issue a refund. And this is proof the payment was made. Half to an account called Dust Makeup, the other half was sent to Designer Daddy. So, part 2. Squidney was still trying to get updates, and November 7th, they finally got a tracking number. And they were instructed to pay, instead of to the Dust Makeup account, the second half, the $750, to a different account, because his account was hacked. The wedding dress arrived November 12th, and it looked nothing like the design that was approved. The detailed beading was missing, the dress didn't include the built-in bodysuit, and the cape arrived torn. The proportions were incorrect, sitting far too high on the torso, and the dress barely fit. The beading across the stomach wouldn't lay flat, and Squidney was devastated. They wanted to use that dress for wedding photos in Japan, but by the time the dress arrived, there wasn't enough time to have it remade elsewhere. They give Neffy credit for offering to remake it. They also add that celestial dress work had barely begun. As late as January 8th, less than a month before the event, he was still choosing fabric. I specifically asked for more consistent communication because of what happened with the wedding dress, but unfortunately the same pattern continued. Squidney adds on January 20th that they were shown a partially completed corset, and January 22nd, they were shown a dress with gold embellishments that they never requested. They were told they couldn't remove it also, so they had no choice but to accept it. On January 30th, the dresses were shipped, and they wanted to trust the process and they hoped everything would look good in person. But when they arrived February 9th, 2026, there were more problems. The replacement wedding dress still didn't fit and it wouldn't zip. And it also lacked the built-in bodysuit that was discussed. And it still wasn't the dress that they envisioned or approved. So part 3, they finally asked for a refund. Neffney asked for the dresses back. We saw that. And on March 31st, 2026, they were shipped. Neither had been worn outside of trying them on. And their fiance had to help them out of the dress because they were crying. Aww. On May 12, 2026, Neffy confirmed that he received them, then accused Squidney of wearing the underwear attached to one of the dresses and claimed they appeared worn, which I strongly dispute. Since then, he kept dresses and reassured Squidney they would receive a full refund of $1,500. But yet months later, they still didn't receive the refund, instead receiving excuses. Here, Neffy says, I don't have anything to give unless the gown is sold. I have $44 and that's all. I just paid $12K in taxes and I'm currently empty until I sell more things. Trust me, I would give it if I could to be over with this process. My PayPal and Zelle and Venmo are all gone. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to refresh it and I keep turning it off. I've been trying to send photos of the changes we've done to the dress to fit the potential buyer. I'm just saying, if you lost somehow your PayPal, Venmo, and Zelle, you might be scamming. There can be unfortunate situations where all the payment processors hate you and you lose it all for some unforeseen circumstance, or you can be a scammer and that's because you lost it. And Squidney adds, during this time, where apparently he's broke, she writes, I saw public posts showing family travel and expensive celebrations, which made the explanation difficult for me to reconcile. They talk about their frustrations and they wanted to share it because they genuinely admired those dresses. And after multiple delays and repeated communication issues, they're frustrated. And they don't have the dresses and they don't have their money. And another person says, nah, definitely look into legal action because how do you, as a business, only have $44? That's just bad management on his part. Now, Squidney adds some more updates, where after their original post, funny how after being called out, scammers tend to work really fast, things were kind of resolved. They got their refund, but conversations seemed suspicious. So he apparently initially told Squidney that somebody called Simone was purchasing the returned wedding dress, and then said that he's actually talking to 2 brides, and then threatened Squidney, saying, please take down post or I will post photographs showing that there is dirty, damaged underwear with vaginal discharge on it, which by the way, Squidney was asking for that proof and he wasn't providing that. He also claimed that the wedding dress followed the same pattern as the Celestial Summit dress, but Squidney's like, that can't be possible because the Celestial dress fit. So if you follow the same pattern, the wedding dress should also fit. But it doesn't fit. And he claims the wedding dress refund was a generous exception or a non-refundable custom gown. But Squidney's like, you previously told me I would get a full refund. So here's the back and forth where Squidney says that they can't see the Facebook because they're blocked, which is a giant red flag. So in the DMs, they're talking back and forth on Instagram. Squidney is asking to be unblocked on Facebook. Neffy's kind of ignoring that, being like, give me a sec, I'm driving right now and I need to park. And then he says, I have screenshots of the discharge, the damages of the dress I had to fix. I saw what you posted about me and I've just been trying to get it sold. I'll post those photos as well if you don't take it down. I have receipts as well. The fit was the same exact pattern as the gray dress you wore at an event and that didn't seem to bother you. And Squidney's like, you never showed me proof of the discharge. And I also have the images where I wore the dress and very obviously never tried on the underwear. Neffney is saying that he has everything in the files. And Squidney is asking for their money back. Neffney is like, and that's me being generous and trying to refund a non-refundable dress, insisting again it's the same pattern as the gray dress that fit. Squidney is showing proof that it doesn't fit. Neffney is arguing he used the same pattern. And he sent another person a disappearing message about Squidney, being like, she harassed me over and over again. I tried to be accommodating. She left discharge on it. I have receipts on how much I spent on this. I have screenshots of the damages to the dresses, receipts. So here, Neffney says that he has Zelle, Cash App, Wise, or bank transfer, which interesting. I thought it was broken. This is the second update. On July 6th, they continued discussing the refund. He alternated between texting and messaging on Instagram, despite Squidney asking to keep all the messages in one spot. He explained the wife would send the refund through Venmo because he was unable to use Zelle. Squidney received the refund and is grateful that the financial problems were solved, but after that, Neffy asked Squidney to remove the original post. Squidney declined, and then he removed her as a follower. So here they go back and forth. The QR code was sent. Here, Squidney is asking to be contacted through Instagram. Squidney sends over their Zelle. They go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Squidney is again asking for better communication, and Neffy agrees his communication could be better. So here, Neffy asks for the post to be removed. Squidney says no. And Neffy says, will you at least state that I've refunded you? That will end the story fair and square. Squidney says, I'll share my experience in an honest and respectful manner. Designer Daddy or Neffy says, good. And Squidney says, however, you were not respectful at all to me when messaging others about it. I'll be sharing that issue. And a comment says, this man will give excuses out until the cows come home. And I thought that was really funny. So Squidney went to Threads and shared their whole story about Designer Daddy. And this opened a massive can of worms because all of a sudden the floodgates opened. And so many people came to the internet to talk about their crappy experience with Neffy, aka Designer Daddy. Here, a user says, I'm gonna put in my 2 cents. He had a dress for sale since the buyer backed out. I have loved Ever After since I watched it, so I had to have the dress. What followed after was months of ghosting, that when I finally got the dress, it wasn't even remotely the same dress. The first 2 pictures is what they purchased, the next 2 are what they received. So what they purchased, take a note of how the dress looks like. There's 2 puffs on each sleeve, and the middle gown has this like really ornamental detailing, right? The 2 puffs per sleeve, one at the upper arm, one at the elbow. This was like an AI generated, I guess, mock-up of their dress. But note that the puffs now look different. The middle also looks different, right? It's like an empire waist that comes all the way down to the ground with like lace in the middle. And now it's like a beaded trim all the way around, and the beaded part of the dress splits down the middle. And here you can see the way the beads look like, and they add the pictures. That's not the same. This looks like a cheap ripoff, right? The sleeves are not the same at all. We don't have the 2 puffs per sleeve. It's just one long puffy sleeve. The beading detail looks completely different, and it doesn't have that beautiful empire waist trimming that we see here. And this material in the upper bodice of the dress has boning, and it looks like it's made of satin. This is not satin. This is just some type of fabric. And another commenter says, well, I'm worried now because I purchased this dress after somebody backed out last October. I literally followed up weekly for updates, and either it's shipped out or in a bag waiting. It's definitely some mass-produced knockoff he's peddling. Great. And somebody says, wait, the fabric, beading, lace, and embroidery are all different from photo to photo. This is really sus and misleading. And OP adds, the 3rd photo was the one he sent after months of not replying. So that's why it looks AI generated, because he sent this. It wasn't OP doing this. But these are vastly 2 different dresses. Another person says, I also ordered a Designer Daddy dress. As a business, it's hard to speak out because I know how hard businesses can be to run successfully. I am not perfect and I miss deliveries, but I always try to make right by every order. This is the dress I asked for, but I wanted gemstones and pearls and a few snakes as homage to Medusa. Neffy did nothing for months after my deposit was paid. So here we can see the dress, right? As we can see, it is a gorgeous floor-length gold gown. It is like multi-layered. There's an inner layer of this like foily gold fabric with heavily beaded gold fabric on the outer layers. There are these large like embossed details across the sweetheart breast line and then going under the bust and down the middle. And there are really high slits, but the slits go up to like the upper hip, and there's chains hanging down kind of cutting across the dress. It's really pretty. So OP continues, when he finally responded, it was past the initial date for the event which I commissioned the dress for. But life happens and they confirm measurements. A few months they get an update that he's working on it. And after multiple inquiries, he finally sets up a FaceTime where he joins the call with a sketch pad to draft this out. They walk through a dress with everything OP wants, with gems and fresh pearls, and with barely any time before the next event they wanted the dress for, he sends the pictures. At this point, OP wanted the dress so badly, they agreed to him shipping it even if it wasn't what they wanted. It's gold, not the champagne gold. It's faux snake skin with no high slits. Instead, a horrendous hip gaff that they don't have the dimensions to pull off. And it arrives with several pieces detached. The corset bodice was not their size or shape. No gems, no pearls. So they let it go because they felt like it is what it is. This is the dress they got. Oh, that looks so different. It's not like slits. These are massive hip holes. What is that? And then this is how it looks like on. The fit is so odd. You can see the corset, the bodice is too big. It doesn't fit the body. And then the embossed details look like crappily spray painted and hot glued on because one is already falling off. And the chain isn't even the same chain. This is not the dress this person ordered. And a commenter says, I hate that he's been getting away with scamming the everyday person for so long now while making quality dresses for people he deems worthy. And OP says that's exactly what it feels like. If you speak to those who walk the runways for him, the dresses are completely different than what I experienced. And another person said, it was months of me being on him about my dress and threatened to charge back multiple times. Then he finally sent it. It was overall as described, but the dress was already made for somebody else. A lot of us believe he sells so many dresses at discount because people back out or ask for refunds due to communication and quality issues. It's such a shame. And another person adds, I'm a costumer and I've never been impressed by his work. His proportions are off, his craftsmanship is shoddy, and his dresses are often asymmetrical. I'm sad to hear he's also terrible to work with. It definitely should not have taken that long to create your gown. Another person said, as this is trending, let me show you my ordered gowns up and the received ones down. All the dresses can only be worn for photo shoots if at all. The applications come off after the first time they're worn. Waited about 2 years for these dresses, by the way, and wanted my money back, but he refused. Top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. These are not the same dresses at all. The one on the very left was like $1,200 according to OP, and this one is stunning if this is what you got, but this is completely a different fabric, different applique, and then the neckline details all different. The middle one shows like very sheer white chiffon fabric crossed over at the waist and then pinned down. And then it looks very different in terms of what they received. And for some reason, the one they received has this like really massive plastic like floral corset that just isn't present in what they purchased. And the third one is this black dress with deep slits. The third one looks the closest, but it's still not the same. It has like this really delicate kind of like metal skull sitting at the belly button area with delicate chains hanging off of it and a very thin belt. And the one they received has this massive WWE styled wrestling belt in the middle. It's not the same. And OP adds, the left one he wanted more than $1,200 for has also been damaged. I received it with ripped off fabric and most of the seams are not okay as well. I also found this video again from last year. He gifted this one to me as an excuse for the damaged dress. Well, it's obviously damaged as well. As you can see, the floral filigree is falling off. Does he like hot glue these on? How are all of them breaking and snapping and falling off? That's just absurd. A commenter says, firm believer that his dresses that he posts aren't dresses, just fabric draped and pinned on a mannequin. All 3 original garments don't look feasibly wearable to me. And people add, he's boo-hooing on Facebook. And here is a massive post where he's complaining that he hired more people to help make it. They paid $480 for priority shipment, and then she filed a refund. Basically, bitching and moaning. Another comment that I love says, damn, he's really just putting those together with hot glue and a prayer. And somebody else is confused saying, I don't understand. Are the top photos AI? Why does he have photos of nice dresses and fabric but ends up selling shit fabric? I understand if it was fake or a drap mock-up with bad construction, but he would still have the nice fabric, right? And OP says, I ordered the fabric on the top left dress myself, so I thought it might be real. And yes, I knew it's not possible to wear dresses like that, but I hope for a good wearable design. Oh my god, somebody else pointed out that it looks like a wrestling belt. And then another person in the comments about these 3 dresses said, I asked for quotes for these dresses and was told $2,500 to $3,000 for the ones on the right and $4,000 to $8,000 for the ones on the left. LMAO, I see that prices fluctuate for each person. Which, what the fuck? And OP says, wow, I paid $1,200 for the left one and maybe $750? I can't remember correctly for the right one. Another person came out saying designer daddy, and there's an entire group chat of women, legit 24, that have stories about being scammed. I am one of them. They write, I ordered a custom dress for $3K and they left a $1.5K deposit. That they messaged him multiple times over 3 years for crickets. He said he was working on the dress despite never having a real convo or any measurements. The event was less than a month away and they heard nothing and got excuses. They requested a refund and he offered a pre-made dress instead. They were scared they wouldn't get their refund, so they accepted the pre-made and he customized it and then asked them to pay the rest. Basically, he asked, hey, pay another $1,500 to receive this not custom dress. OP obviously was like, hell no, and they only got their dress because they harassed him by messaging him every 8 hours for days to get the dress. Now, I will add, I don't condone harassment. I don't condone bullying. Well, this isn't harassment also, but like you sometimes need to go step on their neck a little bit because you're out $1,500 of your hard-earned cash and this person has zero intention of giving you your stuff. So sometimes you got to be a little, hey, I'm gonna call some important people. I'm gonna file a refund, a chargeback. You got to do what you got to do to get your money's worth, So after doing that, they got their dress and the quality wasn't what was advertised. It didn't fit because obviously he didn't ask for measurements, but they were lucky in that they got an updated corset. And wow, it looks bad. Here we have some really crappy looking dragons. These remind me of the Flintstone vitamins. If you know, you know. Another crappy dragon with like holes in it. Like, it looks like there was like a dragon mold and then they filled the mold with something, but it wasn't like filled all the way. So there's all these air pockets on the head of the dragon. More cracking details. Oh god, this looks so cheaply put together. And the paint is cracking. And a commenter says, what on earth are those decorations made from? Because if they're latex and he spray painted them, the chemicals in the spray paint will eat away the latex. And OP says, they're this rubbery plastic crap that he definitely half-ass painted over and glued on with these horribly smelling globs of glue. It started chipping right away. I have no idea what it's made of. And somebody says model magic and gold acrylic paints. And it looks like he's using a silicone mold for most of it and lazily sculpting extra parts to extend it out a bit. And in response to Designer Daddy's MO, OP says he sends fake photos or he makes sure not to send photos and it takes so long you lose your PayPal protections. So there's nothing you can do. And they added screenshots about their discourse because this person was a nightmare to communicate with. So here you have the back and forth where they paid the deposit July 31st, 2024. They go back and forth. They talk about a call. This happened August 5th. They asked a call, get ignored. They have to reschedule. They agreed on a different time and they keep getting hit with automated responses. Then they go back and forth. Dude, they keep getting hit with automated responses. And he has excuses as to why things are crazy. Wow, he's awful to communicate with. And look, all of these messaging, they're literally just up in this guy's text messages. He gave them their number. Just checking in, checking in, checking in, checking in, checking in, check. Wow, this person was, oh my god, I love it. OP was on his neck, bro. Didn't lift up the foot for a second. You should give your artist grace and stuff like that, but this person is scamming. So God, do what you gotta do. And here, look at the DMs. Designer Daddy is like, yep, after taking the measurements, it takes 3 days to make the gowns. And a commenter says, 3 days? I mean, it can be done, but that's not anything I would strive for or boast to my client. Custom work takes time and care and attention to detail. And the previous person we just showed their experience was like, after dragging everyone along for months into years, he openly admits it only takes him 3 days to make a dress? No wonder. Here we have another person with their experience. They've been following Designer Daddy since 2017 and they wanted a dress. In October 2023, they won one from an auction. They wanted to make sure the dress could be done before March 17th, 2024, and he said he could do it after the holiday season and January. So payment was sent in full and it was left. So 2 other auctions were hosted between then and January, and they messaged him a few weeks into January and received no response. At the end of January, they finally got a hold of him and he was like, oh, I'm just bad at checking messages, then asked for measurements and was asking about what dress was purchased and was like, oh, I got it. He kept blowing off, sending updates, but he was also sharing photos of his friend trying on dresses they bought from his auction that happened after OP's auction. They then got worried and messaged 5 girls about whether they received dresses from his auctions and none of them did. Now it's the end of February. OP is still asking for updates. He's still blowing OP off. And in March, they still didn't hear from him. Finally, a girl actually got a dress from the auction, but it was too small and it was stained. So OP started stepping on his neck in the beginning of March, being like, yo, give it to me or I'm gonna get a refund. And instantly, well, an hour later, he responded being like, I'm gonna work on it. He redesigned it, made it in 5 days, and priority shipped it. And when OP opened the package, it smelled like hot glue and paint. The gold paint on the corset was tacky, it wasn't lined up, the glitter shed, the stitching was coming undone. And then several other girls got their dresses, and their experience was the same. Most dresses were redesigned without their knowledge. And they were trying to find other people's experiences, you know, negative experiences with this guy, and there was none. And when they talked to people, people were scared to speak up because he had a huge cult following. But this is the Designer Daddy gown. I think this is the one they're talking about. They had a different post crediting it to Designer Daddy. So Squidney has another post on Threads. The woman who is returning 4 dresses of Neffy connected with me and showed me everything that was wrong and why she's returning the dresses. They're not at all what was advertised. Too long, falling apart, breaking, and as she's showing the issues, and overall just cheap and not what was pictured that she bid on. She bid on them back in February 2026. She tried to comment on his post, but he hid it. So these were some dresses, you know, they're plus size, already made, which also some people in the comments are debating, being like, this clearly isn't plus size. The designer is Filipino and like immigrated to the US and then immigrated back to the Philippines. So I know like Asia has different perceptions of, you know, sizing and stuff like that. Like I'm Chinese and spent my childhood in China. So the way Chinese people view plus size is different. I don't know if it's like that in the Philippines. That was one thing that was mentioned though. So OP said, so I bought these dresses. I paid for them back in February after he said they'll be ready May/June. After I sent the money, there would be a month with nothing. I reached out to see about the progress and I wouldn't hear anything. So finally in June, they opened up a PayPal complaint and then he got back to them. He said they would be ready to ship at the end of June, then asked to be reminded about what dresses were ordered. So obviously he wasn't working on them because he didn't remember. He once again asked for the measurements, which were given in February. And then he got to work. When the finished photos were sent, they were very different than the dresses that were displayed. But because they had waited so long, they decided to deal with the changes. And now that they tried them on after receiving it, it's bad. There's at least 20 inches of extra fabric, even though the measurements were given multiple times. And the extra fabric isn't the train. The extra fabric is in the front of the dress. So PayPal gave them a refund, and the dresses are overall nice, but they're not what was wanted, and the measurements are wrong, and the communication was bad. So this was one of the dresses that was auctioned. It has like a really royal vibe to it with a blue sash going across the front. This is what OP received. And again, it looks really different. The trim looks different. The front trim color is all wrong. And the front is so long. And oh my God, this is so funny. As they were like doing the try on video, one of the arm cuff things just falls off. Oh my God. That's actually comical that it's breaking as they're showcasing what's wrong with the dress. So now, this is the second dress they bid on. It's a white dress with forest green detailing and a forest green sash around the middle. It's gorgeous. Ooh, this is what they received. That is also not what was advertised. The boning looks wrong. The flower on the dress looks really dainty and small. And theirs has this like massive cheap looking fake flower on it. It's literally like a Shein ripoff of what that image looks like. Here we have the third dress with a massive ombre cape. What they received is like a dress with a poorly fitting bust and a really short cape. Like the bust doesn't fit at all. The bust line is massive. And the cape is this like tiny short little thing. And there's so much fabric at the top. This is the fourth dress. It looks like a recreation of Snow White's gown. It looks really regal and expensive. Oh, that's bad. There's like a massive cape and it's supposed to have like a huge flare with a petticoat. And oh, this fits so poorly. And it's not made to this person's measurements at all. There's no train. There is no petticoat that it matches. You can see the seam on the bottom is all crumpled. Like the seam down here should be very flat, very even. You shouldn't even know it's there. But here it looks like completely rolled, as if it's like the fabric is rolling by the foot of the sewing machine as they're sewing it. And the material looks cheap. And it looks like they put like gold washi tape on the front. And also there is no detailing there. And when OP is walking and moving in it, it just looks so poorly constructed. And it's also missing gemstones. People in the comments are showing their support. A user says, I can tell you with a seamstress's eye, he's just pinning those dresses together for the auction photos. Absolutely ridiculous to offer that as the finished product. And another person says, as a pro costume designer, the second I saw the first dress move, I went, oh my goodness, he actually tried to pass off poly China silk that's max $2 a yard in a single layer of poly organza as, quote, satin ball gown skirt fabric, end quote. Yeah, the fabric is just cheap. And another person said, y'all need to dig deeper. He's been scamming people since 2019. It started with Disney cosplayers. There was an online corset course in 2020, then the dress auctions. Most recently, he was part of a ball that got canceled. I wasn't surprised. So this is a post for Disney Cosplayers 2020, talking about designer daddy and Zoom sewing courses. They took his plus size corset class and he forgot to hit record on the class. He brushed it off, said he would later re-record it, and 4 months later, he failed to do that. Another person saying, with all the stuff coming out, I could finally share my story. This happened back in 2019 to 2020. They wanted to order the Descendants 2 Mal Black and Purple. I think it's this dress. And this is the photo of the dress. And what they received wasn't that. It took them months of back and forths to get the dress, and he always had lots of excuses. They finally got it August 2020. These are the dress photos. Oh, what is this on the front? So these are photos of the dress that he took in his home. And this is what they received. Their male cousin had to step in to get the money back, where there's a hole in a dress. This is the sewing. Oh, why is there curling here? Oh, more poor sewing. You can see the serging under here. Oh, the poorly applied applications, the cheap and uneven looking rhinestones. Some are even missing. You can see a couple fell off here. You can see one's missing over here. One's missing here. Again, poor sewing job. What happened here? Why is like the serging is like visible here? Oh, more visible stitches, uneven stitches. Oh God. This is what it looks like on and without the underdress. And Skeleton says, yours was the original post about how bad of a business person he was, and I wasn't surprised. He always gave me weird vibes before that point. I was surprised that when you shared your experience, he got even more popular, and I'm sorry you had that experience. So this was their buyer's review that they wrote in Google Docs, talking about how the dress doesn't resemble what they were purchasing, that gemstones are falling off before they even opened it, let alone tried it on. The stitching wasn't clean. The gems on the cape were poorly placed. The thread color was chosen oddly, as in white and pink thread against deep purple, so it stood out. The fabric didn't lay right, the top was too big. He barely sent work in progresses, and later he offered to fix it, but instead they wanted a refund, and they paid $2,450. He refunded $2,000 of it. So again, we have more photo examples. And this is the convo, where again, note that OP is the one like proactively asking for stuff. They're like always texting first. And somebody said, did he ... actually set fire to the hem? And OP says, that's my guess. And they responded, how is he charging the money with zero costuming skills? You don't actually burn the fabric. It's an effect created by cutting and painting. So here another person, this is Skeleton, the person whose call out I showed you in the very beginning, talks about again. Hey, they're highlighting that he is a grifter and a liar, that he's been problematic for years and that people still worship him. He's made claims apparently of being homeless to garner sympathy, when in reality he was moving from one mansion to another and staying in hotels in between. He claims to be rags to riches and yet was able to make his daughter an expensive costume to go to Disney, and uses his children for content when they can't consent to their image being shared. He has a track record of ill-fitting and poorly made dresses, and always makes up stories to try to garner more sympathy, and also shows AI-generated images of his work. Now, beyond shoddy work, delivering really, really late and nothing matching, there's a couple other controversies with him that cropped up. The AI backgrounds in the screenshot, that's one. But two, this transphobic comment that he left. This is a photo of a cartoon drawing of a big diverse group of people. And he comments, does one of them identify as a cat or ... I find to be a really weird comment to leave in a post like this. It's just a cute drawing of a whole bunch of different people. Why do you feel the need to leave that comment? He also has this. A person says, hey, remember that time designer daddy made a Princess Tiana dress with chains attached? Yep, it's 100% real. Because, oh my god, what? So this is the dress. It's got some zigzags on the bust area. It's made in this gray fabric. It's got these like kind of gothic looking roses at the waist with two really large chains hanging down the front of the dress with some leaves attached. And it reads, posted by designer daddy, when Tiana joined the friends on the other side, ... I'm really liking these twisted fairy tales. The whole story of Tiana, it involves Tiana and then this guy. My pronunciation for his name is quite poor, but Dr. Facilier, I think, which is the voodoo witch doctor, aka the Shadow Man. If you are doing a twisted story of Tiana, wouldn't it have some sort of like dark purples, whatever? It would match more so, you know, the Shadow Man's like imagery. Why aren't chains involved exactly? Is it because Tiana's black? Cause that's just weird. Some people might be like, oh, you're thinking too much into it, whatever. This should have never happened at all. And OP says my beef with him goes way back because of this. His overall poor craftsmanship and shitty customer service. I don't understand how this guy still has a following. And commenters are agreeing, saying there's so much potential for an alternate universe Tiana dress that's dark, muted greens with mosses and like haunted Bayo themed, maybe some fake frog bones. And then there's this racist monstrosity. And yeah, another person says if the goal was to make a dark gothic Tiana dress, wouldn't you lean into the swamp theme with mossy green fabrics with dark brown black earth tones, thorns and vibes with twigs? Nowhere in her story is slavery image used. This was a deliberate slur. And OP says this isn't very poor taste given she's Disney's first official black princess, which I agree. And another commenter said, I bet he wouldn't add chains to an Elsa dress, the one Disney main character who was actually in chains. And so after being called out, designer daddy went and made a really, really long Instagram reel showcasing his like process, you know, doing the behind the scenes about all of that. So he's saying, you know, they're hand sewing the mesh.
Hey guys. Okay, so she's hand sewing the mesh. You can see it's a full corset. We even make the bias part of it to make sure that it matches. If we just DM us again.
Look at what's taped up on the wall.
And we would take care of it.
Are these like the photos of the dresses?
And right now, you know, this is the one I just posted today. Obviously, this is not a string. We just use these strings to hold them together while we take pictures. But because we don't want to use the real string that we use to make sure it's brand new when the client receives it. But I will show you guys the inside of the costume so you guys can see it. So this is the inside, the lining. This is the actual costume itself.
So he says the material is melted thermoplastic.
Happy case. And we paint them and we attach it here. Before we would attach it and it would come off. We didn't know that it would come off. So recently we've been attaching it the same way and then hand stitching it on the inside.
I think it's interesting because they said, oh, we didn't know it'd come off.
We make mistakes and we learn.
We make mistakes and we learn. There are so many people with appliques that have fallen off. How did you not know?
But as you can see, we attach it's called a pilon, like pilon, it's pilon. And then there's two kinds. There's one that fuses onto the material, and there's one that's just like really sturdy. And then after this, we sew in the boning channels, and we use boning to like insert it in. And then we also have another layer underneath this, which is the lining. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, sometimes 5 if there's a lace on
So
top
he talks
of
about the
this.
fabric that's
On
used,
each
how
of the
many
4.
layers.
Like this one have 5 layers of fabric because it is the lace, the fabric, the hardening thing that infuses to the fabric, and then
You can
another
also see the
hardening thing
glue
that
they
doesn't
have here.
infuse, and then the lining.
That's like E6000 right there. And a previous poster said, did y'all see Designer Daddy did a live stream showing how all the dresses are made and conveniently hitting all the topics people accused him of? Like saying, yeah, the stitching is visible because it's handmade. We realized the plastic appliques came off. No one told us before, so now we hand sew them on. Dude is scared. We've been telling him to show his process for years, and now suddenly he is. He know his time is up. Where you can see, he's like, oh, we
After.
hand sew the mesh on.
And the reason why they don't look perfect or factory made is because they're not factory made. They are handmade. They're hand sewn.
Also, by the way, some people were like, oh, this person working as their kid. No, it's just another adult they've hired. And another commenter responded saying that mesh should be sandwiched between the layers, not raw stitched onto the inside. And another user says, sorry, I have pent up frustration about Designer Daddy for years, and I have one last gripe. In his response video, he says, oh, the reason they don't look perfect or factory made because they're not, they're handmade. This explains his fundamental lack of knowledge of garment construction. Factory-made garments are made quickly and cheaply to make a company the most money. The people on the bottom of the rung eat the cost, which is why fast fashion is made in poorer countries. It's not to say they don't have skills. They're incredible at making so much so fast. But to compare couture-level work to factory work is wild talk. He's the one who advertised himself as a couture-level designer and maker, charging couture-level prices and producing trash. I could see his shoddy work through his post in his early days because I have specific training in garment construction and pattern making, and it's fine to be at that level. What's not fine is him selling garments at thousands of dollars, not communicating or delivering on goods on many occasions, and making clients wait months before hearing from him. And it's frustrating because I spent years as a cosplay commissioner and I built a decent client base, but barely made enough money to make it worth my time. I didn't have a team for marketing and I didn't have a large following to gain mass trust. People had to know me before working with me. It just feels egregious that he was able to earn so much money with awful business practices and so many amazing makers fall through the cracks. About the kid allegation. So people were saying in that video that it's adults working on the gowns, but that he has posted to his own Facebook page featuring pictures of his kid working on the gowns and saying it takes a village to build a gown. This is all alleged. So in the coming days, a lot of people probably will come up about more of their experience with Designer Daddy, but oh my goodness, the one thing, at least the one good thing that came out is a lot of people, a lot of dressmakers and costume makers who felt a bit insecure for the prices, being like, oh, I feel like my work isn't good enough, Now they're looking at him being like, dude, never mind, my work is most definitely good enough because this bro's out here scamming and charging thousands of dollars for shit that falls off the moment you put it on. So a lot of people are feeling more confident, so I guess that's like definitely a plus from the situation. But man, it sucks to see so many people get scammed out of so much money, and this person going around LARPing as like a professional couture dress designer when everything they're making is falling apart at the seams. Literally. So at the end of the day, what are your thoughts on this entire situation? Have you purchased anything from Designer Daddy? Have you seen their work before? I haven't seen their work before, but oh my gosh. I know a little bit about sewing. I actually sewed a lot in my younger days, back in middle school, stuff like that. I made a lot of skirts and stuff like that. But so I'm not like a professional by any means. I just know, okay, this is what a serger does, what a sewing machine does. That stuff looks choppy. I have custom made dresses, some that I bought from Vietnam. I used to do ballet. My mom has purchased me custom made dresses from China for back when I danced. I see the quality that I've gotten from those seamstresses and they looked amazing. Mesh details blended straight in, all the seams invisible. It fits perfectly because it was made with my measurements. And then that. And I am so sorry to everyone that got scammed because this person is scamming. I hope everyone is able to at least get their money back or some sort of refund or something. If you're thinking about purchasing from him, Just beware. So with that, if you like this video, I appreciate it. If you like it, subscribe. Don't forget to check me on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators, and a coffee with free resources if you're a content creator. I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST, and I do a stream on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. PST, a podcast with my friend. I'm working on some merch. It will be launched soon. I did the photo shoot recently. My grandmother is ill though, so I'm gonna take a little bit of time to go visit her, so it might be a little bit delayed. So thank you for being patient with me. So I hope to catch you guys on one of my streams or in another one of my videos.